It's really big and it flies really well. But is it actually worth the price that they're asking you to pay? Hey there, I'm John. This is Two Brothers RC, and this is the Freewing A-10 twin 80mm version 2. It flies incredibly well, but it's also one of the heaviest airplanes that I've ever flown. That's a good and a bad thing. We picked this jet up using channel membership funds. We really appreciate you guys for stepping up to make videos like this possible. Shoutouts are coming toward the end of the vid. But for now, let's dive into it and see how it stacks up to the no patent pending Two Brothers review system for large EDF jets. As always, we begin by looking into the A-10's maneuverability. The most important part of a plane, in my view. Buying a plane that can't maneuver, especially when it costs this much, would really suck. Fortunately, it can maneuver pretty well, especially if you adjust the linkages so that you're getting maximum throw with 150 travel programmed into everything but the rudder. If you try 150 with the rudders, you'll notice that they bind. You gotta stick with 100 on those, unfortunately. Anyway, the jet, for as heavy as it is, flies really light. At least it does until you try an inverted high alpha pass on twin 5900 SMC high voltage batteries. Then you start to see that heaviness impact how the plane flies, because it simply won't do this maneuver on those batteries. Too much weight, or perhaps a lack of skill on my part. I wasn't able to do it with 4400s either. Not quite sure why. But anyhow, let's stick to the review metrics here and discuss how it handles. First, is it prone to accelerated stalls? No, it's not. Which is absolutely bonkers, considering how heavy this thing is. The heavier an airplane is, the worse it tends to handle. That's not something I really noticed with the A-10, passing this first checkpoint. If you're new to flying and you're wondering what an accelerated stall is, it's the kind of stall that you experience while maneuvering a plane, generally caused by abrupt pitch inputs. Is it easy to make less nose heavy? Yeah, it is. I flew the entire first day on SMC 5900 HV batteries. This jet doesn't like those packs in the front, so you gotta do a little mod work to the canopy to make them fit. Mostly by slicing off the cockpit floor where the little pilot dude's feet would be, were the little pilot dude to have feet at all. I covered mine up with black electrical tape and glued it in place. This allowed me to run larger batteries, and I didn't have to give up anything to do it. Does it take off and land without struggling? On my center of gravity, 20mm behind the marks on the wings, it certainly does both very well, passing this next checkpoint. Takeoff is simple if you know how to fly an A-10. The thrust line of an A-10 points down, which means that you need to smoothly apply throttle to take off without smashing the nose into the ground. Throttle up too fast and the thrust line will overpower the wings, causing it to smack into the ground on rotation. As far as landing goes, well, there's a very well-kept secret to a good landing with the A-10, and that secret is that you need a good center of gravity. I'm looking to balance an A-10 slightly in front of or directly over the main wheels. This does two things. It gives the tail enough authority to hold the nose up on landing for a long-ass time, and it also makes the plane float in like a feather if you carry a little thrust on the backside of the power curve. Also, word of warning, just like taking off, you must throttle up smoothly when you're flying slowly. Otherwise, the thrust line will push the nose right into the ground. So if you've got to go around, do it smooth. Don't jerk the throttle stick to full instantly. Take your time. It's not going to crash by taking a few extra moments to move the stick up. It has more than adequate thrust for most maneuvers, passing our next checkpoint. The twin 80mm motors are quiet and very powerful. you can spend most of your time flying at half throttle or less and still have plenty of thrust to do anything that you want with the jet. And our final checkpoint looks for whether stall recovery is easy, and it seems to be because I didn't have any issues trying to get the jet to recover from the various upsets that I put it into while testing it for you guys. The A-10 passes with a 5 out of 5. Pretty impressive so far. Moving into flight time, the A-10 really surprised me with how efficient it is. On SMC 5900 HV batteries flying on mixed throttle, because I enjoy not destroying my batteries to make numbers appear on a GPS device, the A-10 averaged over 5 minutes of flying. My best flight was about 6 minutes total. That's really impressive for a twin 80. Of course, the MiG-29 has the same power system and it gets similar flight times if you're not just pegging the stick. So it's nice to see that this A-10 also lets you get some decent stick time for an EDF jet, earning a 5 out of 5 in this category. Let's see if this momentum holds, or if it'll run into some snags as we continue. We find ourselves in the landing gear section now, and as usual, the wheels do function, but they're hard and stiff. I know there's a joke in there somewhere. Surprisingly, the stiff wheels don't sound like shit on pavement. I'm actually shocked by this because it's pretty common for stiff wheels to make super loud rattling sounds. These are whisper quiet. It's impressive, but they're still hard, so they pass shocks on to the airframe, passing and failing the first 2 checkpoints. The wheels are attached to a pretty robust suspension system, though it is dubious whether a jet that weighs about 14 pounds with 2 batteries is going to survive constant hard landings flying off of grass. Only time will tell. Usually the first thing that goes isn't the struts, it's the foam that the retracts are mounted to. So if you do fly off grass, keep an eye on your retract housings and make sure that they're not coming loose from the foam over time. Otherwise, you're probably fine if you're not flying off bomb craters that have grass growing over them, passing yet again. The gear did require low maintenance from what I could see, and it seemed to work flawlessly as well, functioning every time I deployed the gear and retract it and not having any issues with the suspension at all. Unlike the 90mm F-22, which doesn't take much for the struts to seize up and stop working as suspension, especially if you fly off grass. The A-10 passes this checkpoint as well with a 4 out of 5. Not bad. And one highlight to this jet on the ground is that it turns really well if you bypass the stock gyro and use 150 travel on the nose wheel with its own channel assigned to it. Before we move on to the fit and finish and avionics sections, consider scrolling down a little bit and hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, definitely consider it. And if you're not part of our Discord chat server community yet, hop down to the description below, join up and chat airplanes with us. Moving into the fit and finish section, the A-10 came out of the box with perfect undamaged paint and high quality foam, which you can see while we pan around the jet on the tarmac, passing both of our first review metrics. All of the control surfaces are hinged gapless, which is fully expected for a jet of this size class, passing yet again. Seriously, the day that I get a 14-pound jet with a 1.7 meter wingspan and have foam hinges on that motherfucker is the day that I raise hell. So happy to see that that day isn't today. As is usual for Freewing, the decals are decals, they're not stickers. You can tell by the way that it is. Also, you can tell because they don't use thick paper with kiss-cut colored outlines matching the paint behind it. It's a thin plastic water slide decal all the way around, baby. And the tail art is totally customizable with like 3 choices or something. I don't know about you, but when I get the choice to do a tiger shark mouth, I choose tiger shark mouth. Nothing else comes close, and the A-10 passes these 2 final checkpoints in the fit and finish category for a 5 out of 5 total. It's got some great momentum so far, but how well will it stack up to the final checklist? Let's see. On to avionics and lighting, our final checkpoint. This jet caused me to re-examine my priorities and draw new conclusions. System shock, Shodan references aside, I had to redo the rating scale for larger EDF jets because of this jet. Specifically, the servos being glued instead of being housed in a plastic compartment. We'll get to that in a second. Let's focus on the metrics first. Starting off, the jet features metal servos, and the stab servos and aileron servos are generally better than what I've seen from Freewing in recent memory. The flaps sound like typical cheapo servos, but they're metal, so I can't complain. The A-10 passes here. The jet did not care about what I did to it or if I flew it back to back. I had zero issues with the ESCs overheating. That would most likely be due to the nacelles housing the ESCs and having the motor airflow forced over them. I gotta say, that's a really good design on their part. If this thing overheats, you've got bigger issues to worry about. The A-10 passes here as well. The jet does feature lighting with really nice and bright LEDs throughout the airframe, and it does appear to be correct passing this checkpoint. Now buckle up, because in what's becoming a consistent trend for Freewing jets, they've listened to customer feedback and added formation lights, instead of you having to do it yourself and pay extra for the privilege of having them. Opinions are mixed on this. Most people are complaining because the lights are blue, which is obviously incorrect, but formation lights are a new thing that exist only on this jet, and I'm not gonna ding them for shipping blue lights. Motion RC reps, however, have tried to play this off and say that it's actually blue, with a photo of an A-10 taking off from Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, which does show blue lights. But if you know anything about photography, and I certainly do, having shot some photos in my day, automatic white balance tends to skew towards the blue side of the visible light spectrum in darkness, so the A-10's lights look blue because it was shot in darkness. Fun fact, if you white balance that image in Photoshop and add the warmth that it's missing, it turns green. This situation is kinda like the dress, remember that? Yeah, except one opinion on this is absolutely wrong, and they're green, not blue. You can also reference other photos of the A-10 at night and see that the formation lights are clearly green in full scale. I personally don't care that much about the color they're using. I let the metrics decide on what meets the criteria that we're using and what doesn't. What actually bothers me about these formation lights is that I can't turn the things off. They're always on. Who thought that having bright LEDs running all the time on top of the existing nav lights would be a brilliant idea? Also, it's not scale. They turn off in daytime, guys. Whoever came up with this idea, please tell him that I'd like an off switch. I want to save battery power in the daytime and turn it on only at night or on overcast days. Call me crazy if you want. And while we're on the subject of lighting, again, buckle up, this plane does come with a neat gimmick. The gun has an LED in it that flashes. Yeah, I'm sure some people think this is cool. I am not one of them. I really don't see the point of it. I'd rather have aerodynamic features that exist in the full-scale aircraft, like working decelerons. Yes, that's what the split ailerons are called on this jet. Unfortunately, we got a gimmicky light bulb in the gun instead of decelerons. Maybe next time. Hopefully version 3 will have it. Back to the servos and back to the next metric. This jet is the reason why we have the two lighting metrics combined into a single one now, and why we now have a checkpoint looking for whether the servos are easily replaceable, because these are not. For $780, and probably even more in the future given the volatility in pricing currently, I would expect that it would have easily replaced servos, like less expensive Freewing jets. Super unfortunate, and not a design choice that I can stand behind. Failing this checkpoint. It does have a well-designed battery tray though. You can load 4000 class and 5000 class packs into this jet. My most enjoyable flying was actually on 5900 SMC HV2 packs, but to make those fit, I did have to cut the canopy just a little bit to make them get in there. You can see where to cut just by referencing the canopy itself in this photo. You can also remove a little bit of foam and take out the canopy floor as I mentioned earlier in the video. The A-10 earns a 4 out of 5 in this final category. Before we get into the final score and tally up the results, here's the AS3X Plus gyro gain settings that I'm using. You will need a throttle-based gain setup in order to use these gains effectively. If you don't know how to do that, refer to the AS3X Plus tutorial we featured recently, which is linked below, or hop on Discord and ask for help. The gains on screen should be a great starting point for most people, though you may wish to reduce the roll gain a little. Otherwise, it functioned really well and is what you saw the airplane being flown on throughout the video. Overall, the A-10 earns a 23 out of 25. Not bad. And by not bad, I actually mean pretty damned great, which is a much more accurate assessment of the jet and its strengths and weaknesses. The only dings that I could give it were for the typical hard wheels and for the servos, which aren't easily replaceable. Otherwise, the jet is phenomenal. In many ways, this is probably the definitive A-10 that you can buy. If you're new to flying, you don't want this jet just yet. Or maybe rephrase that, you want this jet, but you're not ready to fly it yet. Start with the E-flite 64mm A-10 and move up to the FMS A-10 70mm or this jet afterward. Either one of those jets is a good option, but between the FMS jet and this one, well, you'll just have to wait until the tier ranking showdown between the two goes live in the near future, because the FMS jet does some stuff that this one don't. Whether that matters is up to you, but I promise I'll be comparing them fairly in the near future. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hop down, hit that like button, and consider picking up your own A-10 from the description below. No, it's not an affiliate link. I don't make any money by recommending Motion RC airplanes, but we did pick this up with channel membership funds, and we really appreciate all of you guys who choose to be channel members. Speaking of, huge thanks goes out to our members on twobrosrc.com/supporters, and a very special thanks goes out to our mega fans, Sarasota RC Squadron, Michael Smith, JR Man, Todd, and the Pierce family, along with our ultra fans, Seahawk92 and TBRC Fan. The support you guys provide means so much, you kick so much ass. Coming up next week will be a landing compilation from the last year, because I just don't have enough time to make a video of this quality before I leave for Joe Nall next week. So if you're gonna be at Joe Nall, swing by and say hi to this goofy looking person talking to you right now. I'll be at Nall from Tuesday to Friday, and I'd love to hang out with you for a bit. Free stickers coming too, just ask. See you guys next week.